myself. Everything I have found here, I'm not found by myself. Try and sometimes you'll succeed to make this man of me. All my stolen missing parts I've no need for anymore. 'Cause I believe, and I believe 'cause I can see our future days, days of you and me.
Hey guys, welcome to the Loner Spoilercast of The Last of Us Part 2. Today we've got a special guest, Brandon. He's here to help us break down the game a bit. I feel like we maybe went a little too hard on the game, but you can be the judge of that. We go into our criticisms, we go into what we like about the game. Thanks for checking us out. Well, let me ask you. Let's start by asking what do you guys give this game, like out of 10? What do you guys
Out
think?
of 10. Do you want to hold up
I
fingers?
know you just beat the game 2 days ago. You've had a little bit of time to think about it now. What do you think?
I give it a solid 9.
Solid 9.
That's what
That's
I'm giving
fair.
it.
I think that's reasonable. I am probably. I want to give it a 9.5. If we're dealing with half points here, but I think I give it a 9.5. I think I'd have to. I know I'm a little biased, but
What did you give the first one? What would you give the first one?
that one's tough because I know I would be incredibly biased with that one because that game's like my comfort food at this point. I've beaten it so many times; it's hard for me not to give it a 10. I think when I beat it the first time, I probably would have given it a 10. It was one of the better games I'd played in my life at that point. But again, take that with a grain of salt. I definitely have my rose-shaded glasses on.
Right. But I don't know. I give the first one a 10.
I also
Personally.
give the first one a 10. I think out of the three of us, I definitely give the game the lowest score.
What
But
is yours?
my lowest score of The Last of Us Part 2 is still an 8.5, which is still
well.
it's still a really good game. But
Yeah,
just to
I
me,
prefer to hear you say a soft 9.
okay, it's a
Nine,
strong
hard 8.
it's a strong 8 to light 9.
There it is.
A hard 9. I like that.
It's a strong 8 to light 9.
There you go.
I just feel like there are so many things in this game that are just not as good as the first one.
I agree.
Now,
However,
I'm curious to hear what you mean exactly because I feel like I would agree with some of them, but by the sounds of it, I may agree or disagree with more.
Okay. I'm happy to delve into that.
you know, they added a lot of things in this game, and that weren't in the first one. A lot of movement and mobility and ways to interact with certain things.
Sure.
For that, I think the gameplay is better just as a general gameplay, as like not necessarily the level designs or anything, just moving with a controller. It's better than the first one.
Oh yeah, because as much as I love the first, it is quite clunky by comparison these days.
Yeah, so that's definitely a plus for the second one, I feel like.
I agree and disagree. I can both agree and disagree. Because I think
Okay. What do you agree with?
The gameplay in the first one just feels more dialed in
Right.
Where like it feels like you can do more in this game, but the first one just feels like more complete and like intentional.
Are you talking strictly gameplay, or are we talking story at this
Right
point?
right now,
No,
kind of
he's-
both
he's-
things, but right now I'm just talking gameplay. Like
Okay.
you're talking level design as well, though. Like in
Yeah.
the first one, it felt like
well,
the
I think level
levels were
design has a lot to do with
designed-
gameplay.
Right, and I'm just going based off of controls, just based off of mobility and controls. It's better than the first one because you get to dive, you can shoot from the ground, you can crawl under things. You
Sure,
have,
and you get a dodge button.
yeah, and the fist to fist, hand to hand combat is
Yeah.
a little better, you know.
Yeah, I can't
Oh, it's
disagree
a
with you.
lot
It's better. Yeah.
However, going off of the level design, I feel like the levels were designed more, what's the word, strategically. They had purpose behind each level in the first game than the second game. You know, the first game, it felt like everything was in its place for a reason. In this game, it's just kind of like these guys are just kind of scattered around and find a way through. Like there wasn't any rhyme or reason to it.
I feel the same, but also I don't want to discredit the level design because I still think the level design is really good in this game.
Right.
It's just like
Yeah, I'm not saying it's bad.
the first
it's
one,
just not-
like I was saying earlier, the first one just felt like so much more intentional, and I feel like Brandon probably disagrees. But
Well, no, I don't, because I mean it's a more linear game, so you have to take that into consideration. I mean, just by its very nature, it's going to be more linear. It'll be a bit more put together, or as you say, a bit more intentional. So, yeah, you definitely have to think about that when you're comparing it, because I mean, granted, they're both fruits, but they are still apples and oranges.
sure, but
You know,
that's another thing is like the because this game was trying to bite off so much, and I really respect it for like trying to take on these themes, not to get away from the gameplay we were just talking about, but like even with the story and everything, it like the pacing felt like it was all over the place, and it was just way too long. That was another like that was my main issue with the game is like this is just too long.
I'm gonna have to disagree, and I know I'm the outlier in this group, and by the sounds of it, I think I'm the outlier when it comes to this game. I've been reading reviews online and like what people generally think. I don't feel like this game overstayed its welcome at any point. Like I was just sucked in from really the get-go. Had it slow open, and then I felt like as far as story goes, everything felt intentional. Everything felt purposeful. You could argue that like you could have like some gaming fatigue around like the midway point once you get to spoilers, like take over like Abby and whatnot.
Well, this is a spoiler cast, so you're good. We're spoiling the whole game. We're spoiling the whole game on this one.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. But I just mean like you can definitely argue that, and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. I mean once I took over Abby at that point, like oh shit, I just do it again. That's another 3 days. All my upgrades are gone. My weapons are gone. I have to play with this character that I fucking hate right now, and I want it dead.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely a debate for like the gaming fatigue. I totally understand that. I don't feel like the game itself was too long though. And but again, maybe I'm biased. Maybe I prefer a longer, drawn out story. I mean, I'm the same guy that absolutely adores The Witcher, and that game I put 120 hours into it before I even finished it, and I was never bored. So
See, the thing about The Witcher though is you could beat the single story in 30 hours. You know, you could if you just go through the single story, the main story, and don't worry about the side quest, you can beat it in 30 hours. It might be difficult because you're not leveled up properly, but you could do it. It's the Witcher and The Last of Us are very different games because
No, you're right. I think I was just trying to draw a comparison just due to length and like how drawn out I made that game. I was exploring every nook and cranny in The Last of Us, and I still felt like I wanted more.
Yeah,
I think for me,
I'm crazy enough to say, like I might have wanted it to be longer so that the story didn't feel chopped up in some ways, but yeah.
towards the beginning, I felt like I was like looking through every nook and cranny, and then like by the end, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ! Like, how long until I'm back to the theater? Like,
yeah.
Can we just?
Yeah, I didn't feel that way.
I was just like, can we get a move on? Like, once you know what's going on with Abby, and like you see what they're doing with her and Lev, and I appreciate what they were doing. You know, she's kind of like the new Joel in this game, where she like takes on Lev, and you actually grow sympathy for her. But you get it, and it's like, all right, and I know how this ends. It ends with you going to the theater. When the fuck do I go back to the theater? There's so many moments like that where I'm like, when does this happen?
You get back to the aquarium the fourth time.
Yeah. Which a lot of crazy shit happens between then and then, which is pretty cool. I like that. I do like that. It just takes forever. Like it takes forever for them to like get back to this party. Like they mention this party at the beginning of the game. And then And then like 30 hours later, you're expected to like remember you were called a homophobic slur. It's like, dude, it's been like 30 hours. Like I don't even remember what happened.
See, that gets into my like how this game, the whole story behind this game is just that moment, and that's the only moment that matters in this game. Is a moment that you don't see because it's at the end of the game, you realize that like Ellie's not talking to Joel, and she just goes up to him that night after like he defends her, and she's like, "Hey, I kind of want to, I want to forgive you for what you did," and that's just kind of how it is. It's like, you're a shitty person, but I think I could forgive you. I want to forgive you, and then that never happens, and it's one of those things where that's the only moment that really matters is that scene.
It puts into perspective like why she's so angry. But it's like, I wish I knew that earlier.
Really?
It wouldn't have hit as hard.
You think it
but
would
exactly,
really
they used motivation as like plot twist. And I said this to you the other day. And I stand by it. Like, they used her whole motivation as a plot twist. Where it's like, that's not a plot twist. That's just the motivation. And you were just hiding it from me.
But no one, I don't think anyone's trying to say it's a plot twist.
They absolutely used it as a plot twist.
I feel like it was a twist at all. It was very apparent that, like, they were not on speaking terms. They were not in a good way. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't feel like it's like, aha, I gotcha. Now you feel things about it. It's like,
it's a twist to find out that they were beginning to repair that relationship the night before he died. That's the twist.
But does it make it a twist? I mean, maybe
it is because you don't get it till the end of the game, and it's like, twist. Like,
it's not really a twist because it doesn't change the narrative at all. It just goes from. Well, it goes from.
That's exactly my point. That's exactly my point. It's not a good plot twist because it doesn't change the narrative. It just explains her motivation and why she was so angry.
Right.
It's not a plot twist because it's not a plot twist. Like, I don't think you can frame it in that way. Like, maybe my definition of a twist is more like boxy or like boxed in than yours. I mean, I'm not a big movie buff or even a big story buff. I don't fucking read books.
Yeah,
but
I haven't read in years.
I think of twists. I think like, oh, M. Night Shyamalan.
Right.
Like, oh, I see people. Oh, just kidding. I was dead the whole time. Like that
guy in the corner the whole time.
But that's kind of what it felt like they were trying to do. But with her motivation, it's like, haha, they were making up last night, and now he's dead. And
Well,
like,
yeah, but that
it's like,
doesn't.
why
I mean,
didn't you just tell me that from the beginning of the game?
But think about it though. It's not like it would really change anything. It's not like I'm not gonna feel or play the game differently having that information in the beginning of the game. And
You
it's
would
more
have felt.
I
You
think
would
I
have
would have
felt
felt
more
more
mad.
pissed and understood
Yeah.
Ellie's motivation
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
more.
You would have been like, "Fuck, this bitch needs to die right now." You
Yeah.
know.
Like,
Which we already kind of felt because we played the first game and we already had that connection.
You feel that way anyways, and it's supposed to be like an emotional moment, like it all kind of comes together, I suppose. So like you take, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent here, so interrupt me if need be. Like take that shock value, that moment in the beginning where like the life is taken away in front of you. Like you see Joel just brutally murdered, and you yourself have become really attached to him just in like the 15, 20 hours of the one game you played. And then consider like the emotional torment that you go through as Ellie. Like you have years and years. What is it, like 4 years?
Yeah.
Between the two games, and you can assume at least until like the third year they were still speaking at least, because like it's not like there's that long gap where they're not talking.
I think
So
there was though, because like when it shows the flashback of her finding the hospital, it says 3 years earlier. So it seems like literally they lived a year in Jackson where they got along, and then for 3 years they haven't talked.
No,
and that's why
wrong.
I'm like, that's a pretty big deal, and I would have liked to know that throughout the whole game.
I still don't feel like. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know that it would have changed all that much for me, and I don't feel like it was a twist. I feel like it was just supposed to be like oh, that's sweet, and like bittersweet sort of moment.
Yeah. Well, don't get me wrong either. Like, I don't think that necessarily like ruins the game. It's just,
no, of course.
No, it doesn't ruin the game.
It's
at
just
all.
like, I wish I knew that earlier. I also like, I can't
If
hope.
you think about it though, and I'm curious, what like if you knew that information earlier, what would be different? What changes?
Well, I would have known Ellie's motivation at the very least, because at the whole time I was playing as Ellie, I'm like, dude, Ellie is just a monster.
She's just an asshole.
She's just the worst. Even
Yeah.
with the feelings of me being like, I know Joel, like, and I feel bad for Joel, and it's like, dude, Ellie is just the worst. But knowing that he was taken away from her right before they had the chance to fix their relationship, like the day after, it kind of puts into perspective why she was on such a crazy rampage.
I mean,
So
you don't
maybe
think
I
she
would have been
anyways.
Sure. But I think that would have justified it a little bit more, because honestly, like you said, when you switched to Abby, you were like so mad at Abby and wanted to kill her anyway. I didn't really feel that way, because I was like, wow, Ellie is such a bitch because she just murdered all of these people. Like, yeah, I would have felt more on Ellie's side if I had known that information, I think.
I think that's why they wait until the end of it to tell you that. Because for me, it was like, I want to kill Abby. You know, I want to get revenge. But then as you play as Abby, you're like, well, you know, it was a justified kill. It was just revenge for her killing her dad. So it's just kind of like, it makes sense, you know, just rage-filled revenge. And by the time you switch back to Ellie, it's like, dude, Ellie's the bad guy in this situation. Like, she had every opportunity to walk away, and she didn't. And she even went across the country again to seek this girl out to kill her. And then right at the end, they're like, her motivation was that she lost her father figure, and they were in a bad spot at the time. And it was just like, it could have turned you around from thinking Ellie's a terrible person to, I kind of side with Ellie again, you know?
It wasn't even like, it was literally the first time I was playing as Ellie, I'm like, Ellie's the bad guy. Like, I knew it from the beginning of the game. I'm like, Ellie's the bad guy. And
in the first one, Joel's the bad guy.
Yeah, but
obviously.
like you kind of understand Joel's motivations. It really feels a lot more about survival in that game, at least
I don't know. I feel like
until the end.
maybe I like. I don't know. I don't feel like I ever was questioning Ellie's motivation from like the beginning of the game. Like, oh, father figure was just stomped out in front of me. I want revenge. I feel like that makes enough sense. Like bear with me here, but like when I lost my father, uh, like that was sudden, out of nowhere. It made no sense. The downside was that I didn't have a person or a thing to like pin it on, so I didn't have anywhere to direct that frustration and anger. So you take something like Ellie's situation, and like, oh, I lost my father figure right in front of me, and this is your fault. And in like this post apocalyptic world where like everything's like nothing's off limits, you know. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna kill you. Like that's the end of it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
feel like when you like when you have that like that strong of an emotional reaction to loss of life, like right in front of your eyes, that in itself can be so powerful, and like you feel the need to right a wrong that you didn't have control over, so you try to take control of it and like twist the reality to be something that it isn't, so that you feel better about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and that
I hear what you're
that
saying, and I
a lot
didn't
of
blame Ellie as soon as she like left to go after him because I'm like, yeah, that's what you should do. It's when she started like killing everyone and finding out that her girlfriend was pregnant and still being like, yeah, I'm gonna keep going, and like
Well, yeah,
just
that's
like
the whole plot. Like that is the idea, and at that
it's
point,
that point,
I
and also when you get the flashback of like her finding out, like she knew, like we get that flashback that she knew about what Joel did, and we knew she was angry. So you're just kind of like, well, what the fuck? Why is she even acting like this? You know?
yeah,
And then at the end, they're finally like, well, this is why she's acting like that. You know? So I
yeah.
don't know. It was that it's just
I
it's a small gripe, but like, and I get why they did it, but didn't land with me.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, we all experience games. We all experience life totally different from everyone, like from anyone else around us. So like, it's not like it's crazy for you to experience it differently, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, I feel like there were more moments of the story that I didn't love, like
Dina.
some of the characters I feel like aren't
You're-
very well developed. We've talked about this before too. Uh,
Yeah.
like Dina.
I love you.
I hate Dina as a character.
I don't
and
hate Dina. I just felt like she was very. I don't know. I couldn't tell you anything about Dina.
the thing was like their relationship didn't feel genuine, or
It felt forced.
it felt very forced, and they are like not compatible with each other, obviously. And
Well, obviously it didn't work
throughout the
out.
whole- no, like I know it didn't work out, but like they were separate people. Like they were not on the same page throughout the entire game. And it seemed more like a fling sort of thing. And
Maybe
just-
it was, but
I didn't really care about anything that Dina went through, because it was like she has no character. There's no relationship there. The only relationship that I felt, the only way that their relationship was connected, I felt, was through Jesse. And then when Jesse dies, it's like, well, that's it. Like they're done. Like they will not end up together, or there's no reason for them to exist together. And then once you get to that like farmhouse scene, I'm like, this is a dream or something. This wouldn't happen. Like it just didn't feel right for Ellie's character. that this would happen in any sense, because I understand that they say like, well, what's your dream? And Dina's like, I want to live on a farmhouse outside of Jackson, stuff like that. And I was like, okay, cool. And even in that moment, I felt like Ellie was just like, yeah, that sounds nice, but she didn't mean it, And
I think they kind of explore that. That was very short-lived, to be fair.
I think for me, I could just see through the relationship the whole time. I didn't feel like it was well.
That was my thing, is like, I wish like we got to see some of the moments of them like traveling to Seattle together. So maybe we could have seen their relationship grow a bit more. And like, it's just like from the beginning, she's like, how would you rate our kiss? We don't even see the kiss. And it's like, we don't even see that happening until the end of the game. We see it. And like, it's just like they're a thing and they love each other from the beginning of the game. And I was expecting it to be like, oh, we're going to slowly see Dina like realize that Ellie is being evil. But that's not really what happens. What happens is Dina's pregnant, and now we're supposed to care about her more.
And just
that was like
pregnant. Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Mel. It's like they didn't build that character at all. It's just like she's pregnant and she's a plot device for Owen.
Yeah.
And Owen.
That we can see. Mel did feel a little just kind of thrown in. I think it was supposed to be like it was just a parallel,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the two love triangles.
It was like, an obvious parallel easily. But
I don't totally agree with this. Both your sentiments about Dina. I felt like she was plenty developed. I could hear the argument of like, oh, she's just a plot device as well. And you wouldn't be wrong, but I don't think that makes her a bad character. I mean, like just outright,
Well, I mean, it's not that she's a bad character. It's just that the motivation for Ellie just does not seem to be there for Dina. So as you're playing,
the whole point of the story, though, is like she's blind to everything else, and you have this woman here that like wants to be with you, and she just doesn't care enough. That like the entire time, like she seems to be enjoying herself, and like, oh yeah, hey babe, let's like do this together, great. But like you're saying, the whole time it doesn't like feel right, it doesn't fit, but that's the point. She's supposed to be blinded by her vengeance and need for revenge to the point where the relationship could never work. And then it gets to a point where it should be, and like, all right, we've killed nearly everybody. Let's just fucking settle down and go somewhere calm and safe and like get that farm going like we said we would. But Ellie is still so stuck in her ways that it could never work.
I just feel like that would have hit home a lot better if we saw their relationship build a bit more, and we like found out who Dina was a bit more. I don't really know who Dina is, other than she likes Ellie a lot, and she's pregnant with Jesse's daughter. I don't know.
Oh, by the way, that kid is ugly as fuck.
It's not an attractive baby.
That kid was
You find babies attractive, Brandon?
Fuck.
Yeah, normally I'm attracted to babies, but
not this one.
Not this one.
We got Shane Dawson on our hands.
In real life,
it wasn't modeled after somebody.
Because that's an ugly baby. But
I mean, I'm sure it'll grow up to be just fine. But damn.
Yeah. Like that's one of those babies that you're like, yeah, that's a cute baby, and then you like look away and you're like, that's not a cute baby.
It's a big baby too.
Hey, can you hold my baby?
No, I'll drop it. I'll drop it.
I thought I wanted to be with you, Dina, but I can't.
This baby is too ugly. I gotta leave.
Can't do it.
So yeah, I guess looking back at it, it makes sense that their relationship never blossomed the way that I was expecting it to. Like in the first one, Joel and Ellie, like they were not compatible, I guess, in the slightest. But at the end of the game, you're like, holy shit, like that's pretty much your dad. Like they've gone through so much together, and they've like grown together, whereas in this one, Dina and Ellie they just
It's the
constantly
opposite.
are
They grow
growing
apart.
apart. Yeah, and it seems more of like a high school fling, if anything else, just like a little, oh yeah, I dated that person for a month in high school and it just didn't work out. That's the kind of vibe that I was getting.
Well, and to be fair, I think things probably move faster in the post-apocalypse.
True.
I'm sure life expectancy is probably like 35 years old. So,
well, unless you're Joel and you're 50.
Yeah. Joel had to have been like 60. Yeah.
I mean, in defense of that, I guess Ellie is what, 19, maybe 20.
She's 19 in the
19,
game.
Yeah.
So you remember when you were 19 and you were head over heels
Living
over a girl or
post-apocalypse.
Yeah, well, I mean, like everybody's gonna still have the same emotions and stuff, so it's like,
I suppose.
I guess it makes sense to do it that way, but it's just not my favorite kind of love story, I guess.
I think that's like, it's like really and it's not a knock towards the second one. It's just the first and second game, like you said, are apples and oranges, because the first one is so much about the characters. It's quite literally a character story about these two or a character study about these two characters, and like
Absolutely.
That's what the game is. Where this game, the second one, is still about the characters, but it's much less about the characters and more about the themes around the characters.
Yes.
And about like the importance of like the themes it's trying to tell, which is cool in its own way and much more risky. And at times it really beats you over the head with what it's trying to say. But I still like it. I think the story's really good. But the thing about the story versus the first one, which a lot of people would argue the first one doesn't have a lot of replay value, is I feel like maybe this one has even less replay value. Because, like, it takes, like, literally 2 hours. Or it takes literally, like, 4 hours before you get into a fight with humans in that game.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a long time before you have any sort of combat interactions with different humans in that game.
Yeah, and the interactions that you have aren't as noteworthy in this one, I feel like. Like,
Really?
you remember in the first one? Yeah, I just felt like the encounters in this one didn't tell as much of a story throughout each encounter that the first one did. You know? It was like... It felt a little bit more hand-holdy, like, why are we here? Like, we have to get over there. Let's go over there. Where are we going? We're going over there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just
see that Ferris wheel? That's where we're going.
Yeah, that's where we're going. That Ferris wheel 5-6 times. And it's like, okay, yes, I get that.
Especially since you're both characters and both halves of the game are going to the same spot. I could see that.
But in the first one, I remember a lot of individual encounters and being like, wow, this is something. This is different. Like, you had the sniper level, you had Ellie in the snow by herself, you had the first time you're like turning on a generator with like the infected coming and you're like, holy shit, I gotta get going. Like, it's
there's
like,
a few of those in this one though.
There's a few of them, but I just don't feel like
I hear what you're saying though.
It happens until closer to the end or at the very beginning. The middle part is very stale in like encounters that matter. I feel, encounters that you'll remember.
Yeah, it's a lot of just like, here's a big fucking piece of land, and you have to find your way through it and like either take them all out or sneak by them. I felt like there was a lot of that in this one.
That's what the whole game is. That's literally the first game too. It's just, here's some enemies, get through them how you want.
But no, the first one felt a lot more like deliberate, and there were a few of those in this one. Like the sniper section and like the bloater section and the boss battle, and even the rattlesnake section, I would say, like, felt a lot more deliberate in how it was going with its level design, which I love that section in this game. That last section, I love it. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
But like a lot of the encounters, I felt like, I don't know, it was just so wide open that it was so easy to just sneak past.
Miss it. Yeah, it was just so easy to miss the whole encounter. Like,
yeah,
there was a few encounters. Like, they're not even encounters. Like, I remember going across the crane, and that was like, wow, this is cool. This is different. And then you fall through, and then you have to make your way down through the hotel, and that's a cool encounter because you see through all of the separate levels and stuff. And that one stood out for me. The hospital level kind of stood out for me because just the Rat King in the basement, it was just like, that's a cool monster. That's the only one.
And he had a penis.
Did he? I didn't realize.
Yeah, real small schlong.
He did.
I remember, obviously, the sniper thing where you're chasing down Tommy. But other than that, I can't think of a whole lot of times where I'm like, this is memorable. You know, this is...
You didn't feel like
I feel like that section with Abby was pretty memorable. When you're going through the village, the whole time.
The village is a really good one. I really like that
going
one.
through the fields and stuff. Like I felt like that was really well done too.
I really liked how the two tribes, I guess, the two factions fought each other while you were sneaking your way through. That was unique and different. That village area was probably my favorite part of the game because it just stood out of how different the encounters were and how it contributed to the story in a unique way. And my computer is dying, so I'm gonna go plug it in. I'll be right back. You guys can talk without me.
What were you gonna say, Brandon?
I'm struggling so much here. I feel like I'm the odd one out.
Well, I feel like we're shitting on the game a lot, but that's like not how I really feel. Like I don't hate the game. I actually like it quite a lot.
Oh yeah, no, and I know that. But I keep hearing all these complaints, and there's nothing wrong with having complaints or feeling a different way about a game.
But you're wrong.
But you're wrong. No, it's just like for a lot of these, just didn't feel the same way, and I struggled to figure out how someone felt differently. as thick-headed as that sounds, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, like Nick was saying, he's like, oh, I don't feel like many of these encounters are very memorable, but then off the top of your combined heads, you'd listed like 4, 5, 6 different encounters that were incredibly memorable. And like, it doesn't add up.
I just think because I don't fully agree with that sentiment that there aren't a lot of memorable moments. I think there are, but I just think there's so many that aren't. That we're like most of the first game. Like I can remember almost every encounter in the first game. Where it's just like, that's just how memorable that game is. It's like
or is that you played it so many times? See, that game's been out for years, and you and I both have beaten it. At least 4 times?
Yeah, I think I've beaten it 5 times. That's fair, and I also think it's worth stating that like my opinion on the game's gameplay at least could change if I played it on a harder difficulty. Because I just played it on normal, so like if I played it on a harder difficulty, I may enjoy it more. I just know that like while I was sneaking around trying to get behind people, what ended up happening almost every single time I got put into one of those maps that were like large, where it's like you could choose different paths. You know what I'm talking about? Like one of those maps where it's just like huge and there's so many different directions. I would end up just being like, okay, I'm just going to go to the right and I'll just go up behind this guy. And then I would go up behind him and then I'm like, but the exit's right there. And then I would just leave. And I felt like that happened so many times.
Yeah.
Right.
I
I mean,
just-
what's wrong with that, though? I mean, if that's how you play it, then that's how you play it. That's kind of the beauty about a lot of open world games, or like whatever you want to call it. It's like it's meant to be played how you choose to play it. If you want to stealth your way through it and just avoid altercation, that's like more power to you. But
Sure.
But I think the thing is, like,
it just
that
was like so
happened
much easier
so
than the first
often.
one.
It happened so often that it was like, okay, I hit another encounter. I guess I'll just sneak around the right and leave. Oh, here's another encounter. Sneak around the right and leave. Here's
Yeah, but
another. Sneak around the right and leave. You know, and it's
you can choose to not do that.
right, but it's
Yeah.
But I shouldn't even have the ability to do that. Like, it's like
agree,
because the
but
game
you
is
game
so
to stealth.
right. But I feel like because the game is so wide open that like for a lot of the sections, I don't think it's true for every section in the game.
Mhm.
There's just like a few of these large sections where it just felt. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like because the first one was a lot more like I guess large
Hallway.
hallways with like a few rooms on it. You
Yeah,
had
it's more like,
you had to use more strategy to get around things, and you could sneak past things. You could, but like you really had to be deliberate about what you were doing. Whereas like this one was like you had so much space and so much to work with that it was just like I could just straight up run right now
yeah.
and be
no,
okay.
I do think that if like with that sentiment in mind, I do think to at least a degree you'll feel differently after playing it on a higher difficulty because I mean I was only on hard, but I definitely couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I mean maybe,
I did
maybe
that.
I was bad. I could just be bad, but
I did that so much, especially as Abby, because I felt like Abby had double the health Ellie had, and it would be like, okay, I'm sneaking, and I take one guy out. Oh, that guy sees me over across the way. I'm gonna shoot the guy that's in front of the door and just bolt it to the door, and it would take me out of the game because I'd like lift open the gate to the next area, and people would be shooting me in the back, and then as soon as I cross the threshold for the gate, it's like everybody just stopped shooting me as I slowly close the gate and lock it. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that was awkward, but I guess that's how it goes. Yeah, I wanted to say something about how the encounters didn't feel unique, and I think that also contributes to how long this game is, because the first one was, 12, 14 hours? This one's double that, and it may be harder to fit a lot of unique encounters into a 30-hour game rather than a 12-hour game. So, yeah, we did say that there were quite a few encounters that we enjoyed and will remember, but that's only like, I don't know, 20% of the game, whereas in the first one, it was like 80% of the game. All of the encounters were memorable and stuff like that. So sorry to go back to that, but I just kind of felt like the game's length was a bit too long to have anything memorable last or seem like it was memorable, if that makes sense.
it doesn't. But
Yeah, I'm not following. I kind of
but
understand.
that's okay. What's important? You gave it a 9.
So, what I guess it's like, since you have a 10-hour game, right? And you throw in memorable encounters, you throw in the sniper thing, you throw in the snow mission, you throw in the I can't think of it, the hospital mission at the end, and you have all these missions and they're all memorable, but they're only broken up by a 10-hour game. So if you take a 30-hour game, put the same amount of memorable missions, encounters in there, then it's going to seem like there aren't that many memorable encounters because your game is so much longer and filled with so many more not memorable encounters.
Sure, I get what you're saying, because
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. The length of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I get you.
I know I don't make any sense sometimes, so I just
You're in the
felt
fourth
like,
dimension. But I get what you're
yeah,
saying.
I'm
It's
somewhere
because
else.
the game is so long, of course there's going to be memorable moments, but it's like it doesn't justify the length. And yeah, I get what you're saying.
Right.
I want to
So,
say I want to say one more negative thing, and then I just want to praise the game for the rest of the time. There's one more thing specifically that bugged me about this game, and it has everything to do with the first one. And maybe that's where most of my gripes are, and maybe that's where my bias lies. But my issue, I have an issue with the game, and for me, it kind of ruins the first one's ending because, and I think I mentioned this the other day when we were talking about it, but it's very much implied in this one that Ellie would have been the cure and like she would have cured it, and like Abby's dad like was like a mastermind surgeon and was like legit as fuck.
And never wrote anything down.
Yeah, didn't teach anyone else anything.
It's like, hey, I figured out the thing to the cure. I didn't write it down though. It's just all in here. So if I die, nobody else can do it. Yeah.
But like to me, the first one, I felt like Joel was a lot more justified in what he did because they really portray the Fireflies as a bunch of dingbat idiots. Like so much so that they're all their camps are getting destroyed. They can't even hold down like a camp for very long. Their doctors are so dumb that one of them got bit by a monkey who he purposefully infected. That's how dumb they are. They're so dumb that they almost let Ellie die when Joel and Ellie showed up. They're so dumb that they wake Joel up, and instead of saying, "Hey Joel, Ellie died from drowning," they're like, "Oh yeah, she's alive. Now go on your way. And you also don't get your guns that we promised you." So
I
like,
don't remember that.
it was like all these things that are like, these people seem like idiots and they don't know what they're doing. Marlene was almost dead the first time you meet her. Like, these people seem like they can't get it done, and they want to just cut Ellie open the day that they get her instead of running any sort of tests on her without doing anything. You'd think you'd want to hang on to her for a couple months doing some just like live tests with her before you like just slice open her goddamn brain. But
bringing that point up, there's also, it's super implied that she's the only one who is immune, but if you walk around the hospital in the first one, you'll come around papers that say there are others. And
fun fact about that, they actually patched that out of the game.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
I played
No way.
and I was looking for those same papers and they weren't there. Is that actual thing?
They actually patched that out of the game.
Wow.
Because they don't. That's not canon.
That changes. Well, that's so dumb because when I played it, and I was looking for all these papers and like trying to get the platinum and stuff, I was reading and it was like there were 12 other kids or people who they had killed trying to get this disease cured. So it was like, in that sense, Joel has every right to be like, well, it didn't work with these 12 fucking people. Why would it work with her? And you're just wasting, you're going to kill my daughter because of maybe it'll work this time. And it's just like, okay, yeah.
So everything I stated, which in the first game I was like, Joel was justified, or these are all plot holes. Well, now it's just confirmed that they're just plot holes in the first game. So I don't know. That kind of bugs me a little.
I can't believe they patched that out.
Yeah. Or we just made it up in our head, but I heard they patched that out.
I remember reading it and I'm like, oh, there's other people that they all died because of this test or this extraction, whatever they were doing to Ellie. And that really, it was like, okay, I'm going to kill every single one of these people in here because they're going to kill her. And for what? For nothing. But Yeah. Okay.
All right, can we suck?
Other-
Can we suck the game's dick for the rest of the time, or what?
Yeah, let's do it.
Or you got anything bad to say about the game, Brandon?
Oh my god, the combat.
Brandon, do you have the last thing to say that's bad about the game?
No. No. The game was fucking great. Cried like a baby, but silently.
Yeah.
You know, I will say something bad that I really enjoyed about the game, and that was the open area when you get into Seattle. I wish there were more of those areas. The first day in Seattle where you get the map and you're like, this is location of interest, this is location of interest, and you can kind of explore in any order where you want to go, if you even want to do those things. I had so much fun in that open area, and then they just never do it again. And I'm like, that was so cool. I really wish I could explore Santa Monica and a
bit more of that.
But it was just it turned very narrow again, and I was like, wow, maybe they can do like an open world Last of Us thing, and go into these buildings on the side and learn about lore and stuff.
I felt like it was that large just without a map in some of the areas. Like some of those maps were fucking huge.
I think the map was just a fun little addition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool because it wasn't always combat though. Like the maps were huge and you'd be walking, but it was like you could all the combat was like centralized in smaller buildings and sections and stuff. And it's like if you want to go into this building, you're gonna have to deal with clickers and runners and stuff like that. And it's like, do you really want to do that, or do you want to avoid that and continue on with what you're doing? And I thought that was a very cool thing that they hinted at, but never really opened up throughout.
Yeah, if you think about it though, if they did it too much, that would have become so tedious.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, hot take. I'm glad they only did it once, because
I would have liked.
I think the game would have been boring as fuck if that was just the whole game.
I would have liked it. I would have liked it at Santa Monica or Santa Barbara. That's what it was.
Santa Barbara.
I would have liked that.
If the game ends with Ellie trying to, that'd be kind of cool, actually.
Right, and then you have another like full map to explore.
Like they start the game the way you end the game the way it starts. That would have been kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then for me, I like seeing a lot of different locations in The Last of Us, because that's one of my favorite aesthetics, is like overgrown cities and apocalypse, like nature taking over urban areas. And in this one, it was just Seattle, and it was cool at first, but then after a while, you see the same locations, and you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, that's intentional.
It all looks the same. Yeah, and it's over 3 days, so with the story given, it's understandable. But I would have liked to go through some of the states that they go through, but they never talk about. But anyway, let's talk about good things.
This game was fucking good.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good.
So good. So fucking good.
I think it's some of the best acting I've ever seen in a video game.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. This has been great. The game is good.
Game's good.
The game is good. We didn't even talk about the ending.
Okay, so yeah, no, it's fucking fantastic. It's that's it. That's all I have. It's a fantastic game.
It's some of the best acting I've ever seen in a game, period. And not even just some of the best acting I've seen in a game, just some of the best acting I've seen, period.
Yeah. My favorite thing is how many people I've read online like just weren't a fan of the acting. I'm like, I don't know how you could feel that way.
It's great. Even if you don't like the story, like the acting is fantastic.
It's so good. Even like the character models, how they move ever so slightly, and it just kind of conveys like human emotion without saying anything, without doing anything in particular. It's so good the way that the movements are. Just like a little smirk, a character gives is like, wow, okay, I know exactly how they're feeling. Or
Expressive.
They portray a lot of emotion in this game, and it's done very, very well.
I agree.
I think everything after you get back to the theater as Abby, on day 3 as Abby, everything after that is amazing.
It's fantastic. It's the best part of the game.
The whole game finally clicks.
Well,
it's like, I've been waiting for this shit the whole fucking game. Like, the whole time I've been playing as Abby, I'm just like, I just wanted to get to this part. So I just want to know what happens.
I think day 3, going through the hotel, climbing up in the crane, when you get to the crane to the end of the game is the best part of the game. Because it's so dynamic. There's a lot going on that's different. It takes you places that you weren't really expecting to go, and it's extremely fun. Everything before it is kind of like, okay, yeah, I get it, and I'm kind of over it. And then you hit that point, and you're like, oh, okay, this is what I want. This is what I came for. It's so good, so fantastic.
And 2 things that people could easily complain about, but I wouldn't, because I actually think it makes a lot of sense, is there's 2 factions that aren't very well developed, I guess, and it's the like cult group and the rattlesnakes.
Seraphites.
The Seraphites, right. And it's like, but it makes sense that they're not very well developed, because it's like the Seraphites are kind of developed, but the only real connection to the Seraphites you have is through Lev, who's a child, and kind of only knows the base stuff about the Seraphites. And then, like, you showing up and you not knowing what the rattlesnake is makes sense, because you're playing as Ellie, and she doesn't know anything about them either. So I kind of dig that. I like that. I'm kind of in the dark about it.
I really enjoyed that you don't learn anything about the Rattlers other than they're like slavers, I guess.
Basically
that's
like
about it.
Run cross or something.
Oh, they're just kind of terrible.
Yeah. I got real like, slavery shit. Like, they seem like the dudes that have like Confederate flags hanging on their trucks and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. It was very. There's not a whole lot of collectibles in that area. At least I didn't find any.
There's a few. There's a few trading cards for sure.
Trading cards, yeah, but like not papers that you can read and learn about these guys. It's just kind of like.
Oh, they can't write. They're Confederates. They don't know how to read or write.
Yeah.
If you guys could read, they would be very upset.
That's another thing I really like about the game, though, is like the world building is out of this world.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So good. How do you guys feel about the end?
I liked it. Made me sad. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was.
I don't know. I think it's as good. I think it's as good as the first one's ending.
I don't know. Because in the first one, you're like, oh shit.
So much stronger.
You in the first one, you're like, this world sucks. And like this, I wouldn't want to live in this beautiful, horrifying world. And then in this one, it's just like, it kind of just cements what I already knew more. It's just like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, it's sad, and like Ellie loses everything. She loses her ability to play guitar and her connection to Joel, and it's like, wow, that's really sad. But it wasn't like a wow kind of.
Well, I think it's also really good symbolism. Like, Ellie loses everything, and the one thing that, like, it shows the change between both Ellie and Abby, because it basically takes Abby from like this beefcake person absolute beefcake. She has one thing on her mind. To now, she is frail. She's thin. She is basically almost dead, and her new goal in life is protecting this little kid that she has with her, instead of trying to kill. Like, her goal used to be, I must kill this guy. Now her goal is, I must protect this guy. So, like, I think it's this beautiful sort of, it's a beautiful ending for both characters, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that the scene where, or the dialogue after their fight could have been a little bit better.
What are they going to say?
Yeah, I don't know how it would have been better, but it just kind of felt out of place where she's just like, go, take him. I was like, huh? What does that mean? Take him. Take him. What?
Even go. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But
you want to just have them sit back and have some brewskis, or what?
No, I just...
Sorry, you. Like, as you were on the brink of death.
In that moment, I felt like they were so close that they could have said anything to each other, and it would have been accepted. You know, it was like it was sort of like an acceptance at that point.
I think Ellie had to make it clear, like, you need to leave or I will kill you. Like,
or I'll change my mind.
Yeah.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
It was just, get the fuck out of here.
Well, and I think it was also Ellie acknowledging, like, it's finally time to end this cycle of revenge.
Because clearly it's not going to bring anything back. It's not going to bring me any level of peace. But she had to get to that moment. She had to get to that place in her life before she was able to realize that.
Well, and it just keeps it going forever and ever, because after you kill Abby, now Lev is probably going to come after you, and it's just like, it's just this never-ending cycle. But, like, Ellie finally ended that cycle. She made it abundantly clear that was the end.
Well, until all the other people she killed along the way come for her.
Yeah, this game does have that, like, syndrome of, like, that, like, movies and video games have, where it's like they kill literally hundreds of people, but then they get to, like, the main person that they were gonna kill, and they're like, but I can't kill you. I can't kill you. But all these other nameless henchmen, they can
That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
It's like, it's for the story. You just don't think about it.
How video games work.
Yeah. And movies do that shit too.
Who was a great guy. You didn't know anything about him, but he had a better life than anybody, and he was doing great things. You killed that one nameless NPC whose name, I guess, when he called him out, his name was Greg, and went, oh no, not Greg, you know, and then you killed that guy. But Abby, who's a shithead, who turned it around, can't kill her. Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, that's basically what this game is, though. You killed a nameless NPC in the first game, and now this game is about how that nameless NPC's daughter wants to kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the whole...
Yeah. Pretty good game. You think... I got one more question, and then we can just fucking never talk about this game ever again.
Okay, good.
I would love nothing more.
Do you think there will be a third game?
Yes.
I mean, I guess there could be. I don't know.
Do you want there to be?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd buy it and I would play it. I don't think there needs to be, though.
Yeah.
There doesn't need to be. There didn't need to be in the first one either.
Yeah, I still kind of think that this game doesn't need to exist.
It doesn't. I'm glad that it did. I'm glad that it does. I loved it.
It did.
This game reminded me of Sorry.
It did nothing for the original story, really, other than kill you.
If I'm being honest, like, I kind of wish Naughty Dog just made something else. But it's still a really good game. But I kind of feel like they might make a third one. I feel like Ellie leaving into the jungle was like them saying like, okay, Ellie's going off to do some shit. We'll find out later.
Yeah, she's continuing whatever she's doing.
Maybe we'll see Ellie and Abby team up.
We'll see. You say that, and it's like Abby's obviously going to the Fireflies.
Right.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's what the home menu is. That's her boat on Catalina Island.
Yeah. So maybe they find a cure again, and since Abby didn't kill Ellie, it's like finding Ellie and bringing her to the Fireflies to cure this thing once and for all.
See, that's my thought is like you get to the Fireflies.
Yeah.
You get to the Fireflies and they're like, you know Ellie? Well, can you go get Ellie? Because
she's the only
save
one.
humanity, like.
Yeah, exactly. That could be the third one.
Yeah, and it's like you start as Abby and then you play as Ellie with Abby as your companion. Be kind of wild. Weird. I kind of hope Naughty Dog does something new.
I love this world, and I want them to keep building stuff in the world. It doesn't have to involve any of the characters that are already there. You could put brand new characters in it. I just love the world. I would love them to do because it's not just the United States that this is happening in, it's the whole world. You could go anywhere. I would love to explore, I don't know, Germany that's been taken over, or anything really. Britain with the double-decker buses. That would be cool, Just different locations that you can explore. And it's just, I love the world and how they did it. And even if it has nothing to do with Ellie or literally any of the characters that we already know and love, that's cool with me. Call it something else. Call it Last of Us.
The second to Last of Us.
Yeah,
the First of Us.
Be third to last.
That'd actually be kind of interesting. The First of Us, and it's like right when the outbreak starts, and that's what the game.
Have you seen the meme photo going around about The First of Us, and it's like a clay model of a an early human discovering how to use a stone for the first time. No. I'll try to find it for you. It's dumb, but it's good fun.
Screen share that shit. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of want them to just end, just be done. Just make a new game, make another Uncharted, make a new Jack and Daxter or something. I don't know.
I'm sick of Uncharted.
Yeah.
I love this world. It's the only world that's like this in video games. You got Tomb Raider, you got Uncharted. Those are pretty much the same thing. But this one, you don't have post-apocalyptic realism world. You don't have that. And I just want to spend more time in that, I guess.
All right, I just shared a little thing in the general text channel.
I don't know how to get there.
Click up on general in the text channels.
General. Ah, there it is. Oh yeah, it's just monkeys. The First of Us. It's like primates holding sticks and shit. Yeah.
It's dumb.
It's dumb.
Aren't you guys glad
I love it. Well, that's a good place to end it. Bye-bye.